fans can be the harshest critics, you know.
And they often are.
A wife is often the harshest critic of her husband.
I thought I was invincible. That's what you're trained to believe as a sports person.
There was 4 million people in Ireland who knew much more about managing football teams than I did. When it comes to music, I can spoof with the best.
Your sporting career is the best time you'll have, and you know you have to hang on to it for as long as you like, because everything else is pretty crappy.
And this is not lies. Stephen Elliott has never spoken to Jim McGuinness in his life.
All right, you're very welcome along to our Saturday panel. We're building up to the Republic of Ireland's Nations League clash with Denmark this evening. I'm delighted to be joined in studio by 2 former Republic of Ireland strikers, Stephen Elliott and Noel Hunt, and also the Cork City manager, John Caulfield, is with us as well. 53106 is the text number if you want to get in touch. We're live on all our social channels as well, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. If you want to leave a comment, if you have any thoughts of the state of the Irish senior team or Irish football in general that you want to put to the lads, please do leave a comment and do get in touch. It has been a pretty tough year for the Republic of Ireland squad.
There's a chance here for Wales, and there's a goal for Wales inside the opening 5.5 minutes. And it's Tom Lawrence who's got it. Ireland cut apart so easily. Straight onto the chest of Gareth Bale, brilliantly controlled on the edge of the area, onto his left foot, and there's only one outcome when you've got one of the best players in the world, Gareth Bale, with a sensational goal. Kat Ampadu, who's flying forward this time, plays it through to Aaron Ramsey. It's 3-0. Another mistake from Ireland, and Wales have capitalised. Back to Bale again. Oh, drills a wonderful pass over there and on the volley, and it is 4-0 to Wales from the edge of the area. That is a smashing goal from the full-back, Callum Roberts. What a ball from the left-hand side, drilled across from Gareth Bale. First-time control, left-footed volley from Roberts, and it's 4-0. Here's a real chance, and Ireland have managed to get one back, and it's Sean Williams.
Drilled into the penalty area by Brady. Oh, it's not a towards his own goal. It's a goal for the Republic of Ireland. Shane Duffy. Just 5 minutes in, it's Ireland 1, Denmark 0. And it's through the legs of Harry Arter. Sisto into the penalty area, looking for the cutback, and it's stabbed towards goal, and it's gone in. It's an own goal of Cyrus Christie. Disaster for Ireland, and Denmark have equalised. Inside it goes to Jorgensen, helped onto Eriksson. Brilliant goal, and Denmark lead 2-1. A wonderful counter-attacking move, and the man we feared the most has struck for Denmark. Sisto driving towards the edge of the area, flicks it inside to Eriksson, curls one left-footed. Absolute quality, world class from Eriksson, and Denmark look like they will be heading to Russia. They lead Ireland 3-1. Poor touch of Ward again, and Eriksson rattles in his hat-trick. A hat-trick for the Danish Supremo, and it's Ireland 1, Denmark 4. Better against Randolph, into the top corner it goes, and Denmark have scored 5, and we are getting the mother of all beatings in one of the biggest games, supposedly, in Irish soccer history.
I'd asked them to do a motivational montage. It was anything but. Those were the goals for 2 of the darkest days in Irish football in recent history. The 4-1 defeat over in Cardiff, and in particular 11 months ago, that 5-1 defeat to Denmark at the Aviva Stadium that ended our chances of going to the World Cup finals. Stephen, where's Irish football right now? Is this a particularly dark time for the senior team?
It's not a great time, is it? If we're honest, obviously. You look at the past few weeks as well, with the stuff that's been going away from even the football itself, with the kind of noises coming out with the Harry Arter incident, the John Walters incident. So sometimes it's good to get a game so we can kind of concentrate on the football again. And obviously you'd like to think Arter and Roy Keane have sorted out the differences. He's back in the squad now. Whether he'll be involved tomorrow, that'll probably tell you a little bit more about where their relationship is at. But in terms of the football team, you have to say it's I think we spoke before we came on air, it's a bit of a transitional period for the team. Like we're looking to the group to say who's going to come out there and kind of grab the bull by the horns and say, listen, right, we need to start playing well again, whether that comes from the management side of things or somebody on the pitch. But we need to see better performances than what we did in Cardiff.
No, I guess the problem with looking at this as a transitional period is a transition. It gives you the sense that we're going from one place to another and there's an end point. The problem when you look at the group right now is, where is the end? Where do we say we're through a transition and this is an established group of international players who are playing a good level of football? Right now, it just feels like the players aren't there.
Well, I think you just said it there. If you look at the squad in terms of the number of times they've played for Ireland. You know, if you go probably past Shane and a few others, we're a very young team. You know, Seamus comes back into it, is fair enough. But if you go through our defence, you know, if you look at, say, Duffy now to what Dunn was when he was his age, he probably had 80 caps under his belt. This is the thing I think we're going through. Like, we are going through a stage of, right, we've got rid of some of the older ones. The younger ones that come in now are playing. But again, are we up to that level at the moment? Probably not, because we're still probably getting used to the idea of international football as a team that haven't played together much, you know. So for me, it's like you said, transition is going from one place to the other, but it might seem bleak, but I'm sure they're doing the work behind the scenes to try to get it going, you know.
John, how have we got to this situation where our last 2 competitive games we've conceded 9 goals, where Irish football, there was a stat recently after the last Champions League and Europa League games that there was only 5 countries in all of Europe that didn't have a single player playing Europa League or Champions League football, and the Republic of Ireland was one of them. Like, is this the culmination, this group at the moment, of many years of mistakes, or is it just bad luck that we're having a particularly poor time of it at the moment?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of doom and gloom being put out there, but I think in context of where Martin and Roy have come from the Euros, where we got to play France a number of years ago, and we done really well, to the World Cup phase when I think, you know, we looked like in the group that we mightn't make the playoffs. We had a phenomenal win away in Wales, and then we went into the playoffs and drew away to Denmark. And being in the Aviva the night of the 5-1 game, like, we scored after a number of minutes, and it looked to me on the night that the team lost their concentration. There was an incredible atmosphere, and all of a sudden, from being 1-0 up, we were 2-1 down going in at half time. So, as we all know from being in football, 5-1 at the end of the day, there was changes made, and you're chasing a match, and the scoreline, you know, these things happen in football. And I suppose, unfortunately, I think the huge disappointment from not qualifying for the World Cup, it seemed like it was a scandalous defeat, you know, whereas ultimately we had come out of a few days earlier in Denmark and 0-0, and we were in good position. So these things can happen. As regards where we're at now, I think, you know, basically Seamus Coleman has been, the old head, has been a huge loss for us, and he's a good presence. Obviously he played against Wales that night, but I do think there was certainly a lot of experimentation, and there are new players, and ultimately we haven't got players that have played with Man United and Liverpool and clubs like that, which we previously did have. We've come off the back of Robbie Keane packing up, Duffer packed up, so we've ended up with like a new transition. I think it's a time where, certainly while the Wales game was very disappointing, the last friendly match we did okay, and I think hopefully tonight will show that maybe this is a step forward and that we will give a very positive performance.
I was talking to Brian Kerr last weekend about these games, and he was making the point that he doesn't think, even with Eriksson and possibly Bale missing these 2 games, either way, that Ireland wouldn't be on the receiving end of similar style beatings, because naturally as a footballer, when you do suffer a heavy defeat, the automatic reaction is everything's a little bit tighter, that the number one game plan is we don't concede, we don't give space. Is that what you're expecting, that there is some sort of automatic reaction to the defeat in Cardiff? And
you'd like to think so. Obviously, we mentioned the Poland game after the Wales game. We kind of regrouped. There was a few players that played that probably wouldn't play in the kind of competitive games. But I'm still a little bit wary of whether we're going into this game, whether we're working on stuff to stop the Danes playing. I know they haven't got Eriksson, but they still have some good players, probably better on paper than what we have at the moment. So I'm hoping that the management team of Martin and Roy, they've kind of looked at the situation and thought, you know what, we need to kind of get a way of playing here that we can compete with these teams. Otherwise, I fear that we may see more repeats of like the defeats. Like, for example, we go back to the Denmark game when we didn't qualify the World Cup. I think it was more the manner of defeat. I don't think anybody went into the game expecting that we were going to turn them over and beat them comfortably. But I think obviously getting the early goal and going in at half time, I think there was a sense of panic around whether that came from the management staff. Like, some of the changes were made were very interesting. Like, he kind of putting some players out of position. I think he took the captaincy off of David Moyle, and when he took him off and made some, I think there was 3 different captains on the night. It just seemed a little bit crazy in such a big game, whether, like, as I said, the management staff panicked or the players on the pitch panicked. But hopefully now they've looked at the situation and they've learned the lesson from that. And as I said, obviously going into this campaign, at the time there was a lot of talk of whether Martin and Roy would stay in the job, whether it's time for somebody else to come in with, like Noel mentioned, the new influx of players that haven't really had many caps, whether it's a time for a new style of play. But no, we've stuck with Martin and Roy, so okay, we got to give them time. But at this stage, I'm hoping that they don't think, like, let's keep doing the same thing over and over again, because if we're honest, some of the games we played, we've looked really poor, and we look like we've no kind of function to the way we're playing, and that's something that, like, Martin and Roy are both experienced guys in the game. They know how to play the game, so I'm hoping they can maybe one of them where they think, you know what, take a little bit of advice on from other people I don't know, and rather than sticking to the guns just in spite of everybody else, I'm hoping that he kind of work on things maybe a little bit more, because it doesn't look like he had been in recent games.
It feels as though we almost have the worst of both worlds, and like the sort of managerial cliche sometimes when you go up in front of press conferences and say we don't worry about the opposition, we just look at ourselves. That actually, that is what Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane do. That they went out against Denmark last year and gave Christian Eriksen the freedom of the park, and again Kerr was touching on that last year, that the quality of management and coaching at international levels generally quite high, that someone like Aga Harida at Denmark has looked at Ireland, knows exactly what they're about, sets up his team to get the best out of themselves, but also to make sure that whatever Ireland's strengths are, that they nullify them. Whereas that we don't seem to do that. That generally teams are able to come over here, John. Even lesser teams, Georgia, Armenia, can come over and can dominate possession in the middle of midfield. They know exactly what they're about. Whereas,
well, I suppose for us, Nathan, if we look in the Irish teams over the last number of years, we've been a counter-attacking team. We're probably our best when we sit in and try and go on the break. You look away to Germany that time. You look obviously the Denmark game, the Wales game away, and it suits our probably style the way we were, that we were better on the counter. Unfortunately, in the Aviva we've struggled because obviously teams are sitting in they're packing midfield, and they're technically keeping the ball, and we're finding it difficult. And I suppose ultimately at the end of the day we've had a major issue up top, because if Shane has been out injured, we haven't had anyone proven. So, you know, we were running around trying to get Scott Hogan to declare for us. Obviously, Shawnee Maguire was in League of Ireland last year. Everyone is resting on Shawnee to do the business. You know, he's done really well at Preston, but he's been out injured for the last 3 months. So it has a problem position for us scoring goals as well. So ultimately, I'd like us to get back to being solid, not conceding. And I think what has happened is we've got caught, particularly in that we're trying to attack and play a bit open, but ultimately, you know, we need to go back to basics and keeping clean sheets, and because we just haven't got prolific goal scorers at the moment, and we're not prolific on the break at the moment.
Yeah, is that something you've a bit of experience about, in the way that we always still, and we probably will for the next 20 years, talk about Robbie Keane and why we haven't developed another Robbie Keane? We're so reliant that when we created 2 chances in the game, Robbie generally would have taken one of them. But say with Cork last year with Shawnee Maguire, that he scored so many goals when he goes, actually, and it has just an effect on everybody else, that you're not taking as many chances, that the midfielders probably aren't as confident because they're not getting the assists they once did. The defenders are a bit more nervous because they have to keep a clean sheet, because there's no guarantee that you're going to score goals anymore.
Well, absolutely. Goal scorers are the ones, and there's one either side of me here, and they know that basically, ultimately, you've a guy in your team that every week, you know, he gets 2 chances, he's going to stick 1. You know you're in a great place, and unfortunately at the minute it's not an area that we're very strong on, and we're relying on, as I said, Hogan. We're relying on Shawnee, who's really hasn't kicked the ball all year, and hoping that Shane is fit. So, you know, it is a huge area for us.
Is it hard as a manager not to let that get to you? Because Martin O'Neill, like, he still talks about Robbie Keane.
Well, no, you have to work on, and you have to believe in the new fellas coming through, and you have to have a system of play, and you have to go out and sort of have a plan of how you're going to score. You know what I mean? And
I just ask you a question. So, see, as a manager yourself, like, see, obviously you look at that. We mentioned obviously there's no Robbie Keane there, no Damien Duff stars that we've had, that we've been lucky and blessed to have. Or as a manager, you know you haven't got them guys that probably will stick. As a manager, do you look at that and think we maybe have to be like, do we work on a system and try and have to be a little bit more solid? Like, should a manager take a little bit more responsibility of getting the team, rather than saying, well, we haven't got such and such, we've a little bit like Mourinho saying we have who we haven't got, rather than just working, make us a little bit more solid.
As the manager, you cannot blame and start looking back and looking in the past. That's rubbish. You know what I mean? You have to deal with what you have, and I suppose certainly what we have to do is certainly, and I'm sure Martin and Roy will have worked in the last number of weeks, we have to have our defensive shape, and we have to make sure that we're solid, we're not giving away goals, and have a plan in place that, okay, when the opportunity comes, whether it's set pieces, whether it's counter-attacking, that we work on that. But certainly, you know, if you haven't got prolific goal scorers, you have to get back to basics and say, well, look, we're not going to concede and keep ourselves in the game.
Well, I think knowing the Euros you mentioned against France, them big games, everybody was the country was, and that was obviously underneath Martin and Roy. I think we've gone backwards a little. I think that's the worry for people. We've gone a little bit backwards since then. You know, I just think you're looking at that. Everybody's thinking we're on the up now. Martin and Roy, we're going to push on to the next level. And if anything, it's gone way below that standard we've expected.
Yeah, I think we've been slightly naive as well, and thinking like that we can go out and play football against some of these teams. Some of these teams we play against have got world class players. You got Wales, they got Gareth Bale, they got Aaron Ramsey playing top flight Champions League football every year. For us, we don't. We don't have a top four player. Let's be honest. You know, and we haven't had one for a little while since the likes of Robbie, you know, and these boys that were there. There's no point in talking about the past with them. But what we have now is, like you're saying, the last two results, part of the Poland game, there's 9 goals against, there's 2 for. There's a problem there. Simple as that. So I think you're bang on. I don't see us in them games as being a counter-attacking team because we're too open to be a counter-attacking team. You know, defensively we're not set up right. We're not in the right shape. For us as a team, of what we have as players, it's difficult for us at the moment. So maybe we do go back right, as you say, get solid. We keep the pitch nice and narrow, keep them down the sides, and we go have a plan of breaking on teams.
I think that's what we did. We did that a little bit in Poland. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we kind of did that, and although it wasn't an unbelievable performance, it was still a result where you think, you know what, at least we didn't lose, because that's where you're worrying going into that.
It was a friendly though. It was a friendly without Lewandowski.
No matter what you say, but it's still an international game, which I know from.
So you actually, because I sort of sniggered when O'Neill said that this sort of brings the confidence back after what happened in Cardiff. You think actually
I still think every international game really mattered to me when I played, because you represent your country, you're representing the fans that are going over to kind of to pay money to follow you in Poland, which is it's not cheap. So you want to be proud to wear the shirt, no matter what game it is. Obviously they're not as important, but it's still, after losing 4-1, it's still very important, and I think that was an important result, and we did go back to basics. So Martin and Roy you should probably take the hats off them for that, because that could have been, I was worried going into that, even without Lewandowski, thinking this could be another hammering, but the defence, whoever that was, whether it was the players, the management, thought, listen, we go back and we regroup and we do not lose this game.
What Noel is saying there about being solid and tight and well structured at the back, is that almost not the most damning criticism of Keenan O'Neill? Because we've come from a tradition where players generally tend to up their game playing for Ireland, that actually, like Kevin Kilbane has often mentioned about, he's almost trying to get fit at club level so he'd be at his peak when he would turn up for Irish internationals. Whereas you look at Stephen Ward playing for Burnley or Shane Duffy playing for Brighton, they do not make the mistakes at club level that they make for Ireland. That, like, some, even watching back in television there, the goals that we conceded last year against Denmark, like, they were horrendous schoolboy stuff type errors, whether it's nervousness, pressure for playing for your country, or whether it's just there's a system there that everybody's completely unnerved. Like, what do you put that down to, that Shane Duffy looks a better defender at club level than he does at international level?
Well, international level is a higher level.
Is it? Than the Premier League?
It is than Burnley. Or than Brighton and whatever, to be fair, you know. And at the end of the day, like there's 2 things I'd say here. Denmark went to the quarter-final of the World Cup and lost on penalties to Croatia. We all said Croatia were fantastic, okay? And that match is 11 months ago. We've only played 2 matches since. Obviously, we have the Wales game, we have the Poland game. But at the same time, you're definitely right. I think defensively we can do more. But certainly, the night against Denmark in the home game, the 5-1 game, that night, there was mistakes made. The pressure on the players was incredible, because it was the World Cup was at stake. So certainly, Nathan, the pressure in international football, particularly playing for us to qualify for a World Cup, is enormous. And plus the fact the boys are Irish, it's their pride, it's their country, that's who they want to play for. You know what I mean? So, I think definitely anyone to assume that the club are not making the same mistakes. That night in the Aviva, it was the highest level to get to the World Cup. You're representing your country, and the team did, as I said, being there on the night when we scored early, I felt that on the pitch it seemed that the players switched off. And you can blame the management saying, and I agree with Stephen's point at half-time, there was a change at half-time which might have been strange considering we're 2-1 down, but certainly the 2 goals that Denmark got back were soft goals. And it was untypical of us for the goals we gave away in the first half last year.
So the way then those goals came after getting the early goal and going in front, like maybe it's the excitement levels, like the atmosphere in the 5-6 minutes afterwards was probably unlike anything any player has played in before.
The noise was unbelievable.
Is that where actually the management have to hold their hands up and go, we didn't realise quickly enough that the players had lost the run of themselves, or is there anything we can do in that situation?
When Ericsson sticks one in the top bit from that far out, like, it's different. You can't really.
Sometimes that's something you can come back from.
But after that goal, you can kind of get and say, listen, okay, I think we got caught up in the whole
It's meant to be.
Build up. It's meant to be early goal. Everybody was talking, we get an early goal, keep it tight. The goal goes in early doors. Shane Duffy scores, and we were all there. We were up celebrating. You're starting to really believe, and then we're in 20 minutes. You're kind of half time. You're sitting there thinking, wow.
The team seem to get nervous on the night, and this can happen. That's human nature.
As a manager, do you get nervous as a manager? Like decision wise, can that affect you as a manager as well? When you notice that much pressure, everybody's eyes are on you. You know this is a massive thing to qualify for the World Cup, and as I said, we go back to the half-time. I still don't understand it now, but as I said, some of the decisions that went
going against everything that he'd done.
Yeah, and it was just very, very strange. But I said you can't. Like we said, we talking about looking backwards and stuff. We have to move on, but it's so kind of recent. I'm obviously playing the same team again. You can't help but speak about it.
Have you had moments like that, John? I'll open it to the Cork fans on text as well. Honestly, have you had moments where actually the emotion of the game just got the better of you, and for 5-10 minutes you're not actually thinking straight? Of
course, every manager has. It's just part of being management and learning, and you know, the more you manage over the years, the more experience you get, the more you learn in different situations. And but like you know, at the same time, for ourselves, over the last number of years, we've played in Europe quite a lot. We played in cup finals. You learn from those occasions, and you can see sometimes in the dressing room players get anxious, get over anxious. You know, it's important, you know, to try and keep them, you know, without that pressure, and try to take the pressure off them. But there's no doubt players get nervous, they get edgy, and sometimes it happens and they cross the line and these things happen. But I'm more sort of for looking forward to tonight and saying, okay, we've had a bad Welsh game. Have we learned from that? And seeing, can we move forward? The Poland game showed we're back to defending very well. So I'm more optimistic tonight that the team will be well prepared and that we will go back to a strong defensive structure. But we'll wait and see, but I would certainly hope so.
53106 is the text number. You can get in touch as well on any of our social channels. Text coming in saying, lads, tickets have not sold for this game. Schoolboy clubs are giving out free tickets to beat the band. Well, the FAI say there's 46,000 tickets gone. It's the most miserable day of the year so far. If they don't get 46,000, if you get over 30,000 with the results recently, it's still fine. It's still pretty decent support for an international side. But if you get a free ticket, go along. Make the most of the tickets that are out there. We've lots of texts coming in as well about other things involving the Irish squad. We want to get to some of Keith Andrews' thoughts from during the week as well. We're going to take a quick break, but first, we have been running a charity auction since the start of the show. It's all in aid of Colin Kelly, who's a Dubliner who's currently battling a brain tumour, and we're trying to raise some funds. It's a 4-in-a-row winning senior football Dublin jersey signed by the entire squad and a commemorative plaque. We have a bid of €1,200 in for this, and we verified that bid. We're going to keep it going until 6 o'clock. So €1,200. If you're in a business, you're in a company, or you just want it for your house, do get in touch. 53106 for 30 cents, but we are now up to €1,200 on that. So we'll take a very quick break. You are listening to the Saturday Panel, brought to you this afternoon with Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.
The Saturday Panel on Off the Ball.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.
Listen back to your favourite News Talk shows at newstalk.com and on the News Talk app.
Does your office need a facelift? A new look reception area? A modern open plan office layout? Perhaps some stylish new glazed partitions? Or a cool staff canteen? Not sure where to start? Whatever your need, Hunt Office Interiors has the expertise to guide you. With showrooms in Dublin, Limerick, Cork and Belfast, why not talk to our team about transforming your office environment? Contact Hunt Office Interiors today for a free consultation. Call us on 1890 771100 or email interiors@huntoffice.ie. Hunt Office, for all things office.
Jules Holland and his Rhythm and Blues Orchestra. Free Arena, Saturday, October 20th. Joining him are Gilson Lavis, Ruby Turner and Louise Marshall, plus very special guest Mark Almond. Tickets from €54 on sale now. Additional charges may apply. Don't miss Jules Holland and his Rhythm and Blues Orchestra. Tickets on sale now.
Don't miss a huge weekend of rugby with the Sunday Times. The Champions Cup is back, so follow all the action from the RDS to Sandy Park with match reports and analysis from Peter O'Reilly, Stuart Barnes and Stephen Jones. That's rugby tackled. Pick up your copy of the Sunday Times this weekend or subscribe at thetimes.ie/join.
Bruce Betting Sportsbook, Casino and now Live Casino. Download the Bruce Betting app to see why for the Premier League, Bruce Betting are giving you more. With price boosts, live in-play betting, cash out and ACCA insurance. Make Bruce Betting your Premier League bookmaker. Bruce Betting, in-store, online and now on your phone. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
Ever wondered where standards come from? If you're involved in innovation, you probably have. And the simple answer is, they're developed by people like you. NSAI is the National Standards Authority of Ireland. When we're developing a new standard or updating an existing one, your expertise is invaluable. So you can help influence the direction of your industry and be among the first to hear about new developments. If you'd like to participate, visit nsai.ie today or call 01 807 3800. That's 01 807 3800.
It's time to party, have fun and save big at Harvey Norman. We're celebrating 15 years in Ireland and 15 years of great value and service with a 15th birthday sale. Get the Samsung fridge freezer with no frost technology and all-round cooling, which keeps your food fresher for longer for just €529, saving you €200. Celebrate and save with us today. The Harvey Norman 15th birthday sale, now on.
Go, Harvey, go!
But I just think we need to go over it again, Ciara.
Ciara's up against her biggest challenge. Can I grab you for a sec? At 5 o'clock, boss? The goal here is to have a healthy dinner tonight, but he's a tricky obstacle, enjoys the sound of his own voice, and he's playing a blinder.
If you look at paragraph 5.
But Ciara's not fazed. She's going to race past him. And she's got the inside track straight to green aisle cauliflower rice in the freezer aisle. A real crowd pleaser with 86% fewer calories than its white rice rival. Tastes great with a curry, and Ciara is onto a winner of a dinner tonight. Green aisle, get to the goodness.
At Toyota, we believe nobody can give your car the quality of care that a Toyota trained technician can. But what do the real experts think? Our customers. 9 out of 10 say they would recommend a Toyota service above all others. At toyotaservice.ie, you will see just how affordable our value service is. Genuine Toyota parts and outstanding customer care, all from just €125. Get your quote today at toyotaservice.ie. Toyota. Built for a better world. Terms and conditions apply.
Attention, all vehicles registered early in 2011, 2013 and 2015, you are now due for NCT. Driving a vehicle without a valid NCT will result in a fixed charge offence and 3 to 5 penalty points if as a result of a court conviction. New changes to the NCT mean that driving a vehicle where the tyre tread depth is below the legal limit is now classified as a dangerous defect. This means the vehicle should not be driven on public roads. For more information or to make a booking, log on to ncts.ie. The NCT for safer, cleaner motoring.
The Saturday panel on Off the Ball.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie. Championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.
You're very welcome back to our Saturday panel. We're looking ahead to the Republic of Ireland's clash with Denmark. I'm joined in studio by Stephen Elliott, by John Caulfield and by Noel Hunt. 53106, the text number. If you have any questions or thoughts about the state of the senior team at the moment, or just Irish football in general, do get in touch. And we're live on all our social channels as well. YouTube.com/offtheball, Facebook.com/offtheball, or you can watch it on Periscope on Twitter. I want to play a clip of Keith Andrews from during the week on the Keith Andrews Show. Himself and Joe took out the tactics board to discuss the Republic of Ireland's lack of passing options.
So I'm talking about options on the ball. And look, I've been there. I've been there in the Irish shirt where
we're sitting here in a studio saying, why can't we pass the ball?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So I just want to break it down very, very simply. Stick Conor Roberts back in there. So I see a lot of...
So this is us in our 4-4-2 shape.
So where's the...
He's left back.
You got 2 right backs in there, John.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
One,
there we
two,
go. So there's the front tray, right?
Okay.
So here's our narrow 4-4-2.
Yeah.
Okay. So Seamus Coleman, I see a lot when he gets into these areas and advanced that he doesn't have options on. It's never easy for us. And do you know why Wes Hoolahan shone for us?
Because of his movement off the ball.
And what he was able to do on the ball.
Well, obviously
drop the shoulder, create the space for himself. Right. I could never do that. Jeff Hendrick, Conor Hoolahan, Glenn Whelan. Most of the midfielders need options to pass to.
Yeah.
Seamus is able to, when under pressure, if he doesn't have that option on, to manipulate the ball, drive in his little meandering way with power and pace, and create that time for himself so then the picture opens. The vast majority of our players can't do that.
No.
So they need options on the ball. So if you look at Seamus Coleman, right back, where's your options, okay?
So show me what we are doing, not what we should be doing. What are we doing now? So Coleman has the ball here.
I don't think he knows what he's doing, realistically.
You don't think our right winger?
Our right winger won't know what he's doing. If he cuts the ball off to the line, the Welsh winger, does he move again? Our midfield, is there any type of movements where one runs off and one runs in to receive the ball? I don't think so.
Yeah, so that's Keith Andrews talking about his views on how Ireland set up. The key words there is that he doesn't know what he's going to do, it seems. That when Seamus Coleman or whoever's right back, that the midfielders don't know what's happening next, that the right midfielders don't know what's happening next. At this level, at international level, that doesn't seem acceptable or right. Like, would you agree with that when you watch Ireland a lot of the time, nobody knows what's going to happen next?
If you're looking at our performances in the games we've not played well in, it's not as black and white as that. You know what I mean? Obviously, the professional players, they're playing at a good level, so they understand the basics of the game. But when you're playing against these teams, you have to kind of have a process for when you have the ball and when you're attacking. There's a way we want to play. So what is our way we want to play at the moment? I'm not too sure, watching us recently, how our aim is how to get from, say, our defensive line into the final third. What is our way of breaking the lines? There's no real. We sometimes go long, we sometimes pass it. There's no definite way of playing, in my opinion. Defensively, well, if you look at the Wales game, we were all over the place. There was gaps. The Welsh midfield were running through our midfield well, as if they weren't there. There was big spaces between the central midfielders and the wide men. When we lost the ball, we didn't get tied together. We seemed to kind of look at each other saying, right, who's going to take the ball? And players like Ramsey, Bale, these type lads, Joe Allen, they're going to pass through us and score goals, which they did, and it could have been more if we're honest on the night.
And does that suggest, Noel, that the work's just not been done on the training ground?
You don't know it. You don't know until you're there, if that makes sense. No one can say to me that they know what's happening inside the Irish camp. So they could be told. Whether it's been taken on board is another thing. Whether they've been told at certain times to do it is another thing. For me, is there triggers? When to go and press, when to go and sit off? Is there somebody on the field that's demanding, right? Is he commanding? Is he saying, right, we're sitting in here, we're holding our shape, but now we're going to go press? Because these are things that, let's be honest, you'd like to think that are happening. But like you're saying, from the last couple of results, bar the Poland game, it doesn't look that way.
The Wales game, the first time we actually, as I said, I think we're good when we press. Obviously, when we haven't got as good players, but over the years, Irish teams have always been, right, let's get up against these, get solid as a unit, close them down quick in the face. That was the way we played.
Put them under pressure, but not
exactly.
In
a calculated way. The first time we put any pressure on the ball over in Cardiff, we got the goal. Sean Williams came on, he done okay when he came on. He put pressure, forced a mistake. Our defensive line of Welsh that have a few kind of mistakes in them. We know that, but we didn't even lay a glove on them to make the mistake until that goal. And they made a mistake. We got a goal, great finish by Sean Williams, who deserved his goal. He's been, 28, 29, been playing well in the championship. Probably another one who should have had a bit more of a chance before what he did. But that's what I'm saying. So are you looking at that and thinking, right, we can do that by keeping a solid unit behind that, but getting the press on. But we don't do it regularly enough to say that's the way we play. It's like the players take upon themselves, okay, I'm going to go here. He looks around, are people going with him? If everybody goes, then we know we're all going together. But that's something, like we said, that's something whether Keith was making a point, whether he's kind of half saying they don't walk on that train, which I think he is. We're out kind of saying I think that was the point he was making. We do not walk on a way of playing in training.
Yeah, and the frustration from the Wales game was that, as you say, someone like Ashley Williams, who's had a bit of a struggle at club level over the last couple of years, had the easiest night of his life because every time he got the ball, he had all the time in the world, there was no pressure. But also a 17-year-old, Ethan Ampadu, was able to run the show, that there was no stage at all where people were getting at him, like, first international start, at his heels, putting him under that little bit of pressure that it wasn't realised from the sideline, and also it wasn't realised by the players on the pitch. And what you're talking about, that picking your moments to put pressure on, where should that come from, John? Is that the midfielder's role? Is that something that the management need to be at them constantly from the sideline?
Well, I think what's going on, Nathan, and listen to Keith and whatever, it's been implied that the boys aren't being coached or there's no shape being done at training, which I'm surprised about, because the basics of any coach or manager is have a philosophy in your team of how we're going to play, and tactically how we're going to go out and work on it, and you work on that in the training ground. So, like, if it's been implied that they're not doing this at training, which I'm surprised about. But if they're not, well, then obviously you can't perform. For me, I would assume that the Wales game was a very bad day. The Poland game, which was our last match, we were solid and we were defensively strong, and I'm hoping that will continue today. But at the same time, you know, someone tells me that it's not being done on the training ground, I'm surprised that knowing the experience that Martin O'Neill has in his club career, and Roy Keane who's also been a manager and done very well at clubs. So, you know, for me, I would assume the work is being done on the training ground, because that's the basis of any.
It's funny you said that. You go back to the Poland game. What was the kind of turnaround from the Wales game to the Poland? A couple of days, was it? And if they had gone after the Wales game, the management staff says, listen, right, we need to work on this, we need to go back to basics. And the Poland game was such an improved performance, kind of just tactically. So if you look at that and the difference in performance in the space of 2 days, if that's what they did in them 2 days, working and stuff, could you imagine if they've done that the whole time? Like, I'm not saying they haven't, we don't know for sure, but if they had been working on this, a way of playing for the last year and a half, and with the new players coming in, would we have been seeing better performances?
Well, is that,
it's never too late to change it, but will they?
That, I guess, is the question mark, and we'll never fully know unless, probably until players retire and they come out and tell us exactly what has gone on in the camp. But Martin O'Neill, in many ways, is quite old school and likes to still talk about Brian Clough and winning a European Cup with Nottingham Forest and his success of Leicester and Celtic. We've had a lot of those players on where they spoke about maybe not doing a huge amount of tactical work on the training ground, that he was a brilliant man manager and knew how to get the very best out of the likes of Hartson and Lennon and Sutton, and trusted them as players to work it out. I just wonder, like, John, if you've seen maybe the modern footballer is quite different, that actually they don't think for themselves as much, that somebody like Jeff Hendricks at Burnley, Sean Dyche has drilled into him exactly what he wants from him and everybody else, and that if he's given a bit more freedom when he's in a green jersey for Ireland, actually that maybe doesn't suit him.
Well, if you're saying there, you hit the nail on the head about players, modern day players, not thinking for themselves. For me, if I'm playing for Ireland left back and Gareth Bale gets the ball, where am I showing him? I'm showing him down the line. I'm showing him on his right foot. I'm leaving him beat me in a foot race and putting a cross with his bad leg. I'm not leaving him come inside and shoot with his strong foot that he's done for the last, say, 7 or 8 years on the biggest stage in the world and scored. You know, so you can be blue in the face from structuring your team, you know, being set defensively solid. But if one player lacks that concentration for a second, that gives them the opportunity that these players will take. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's the be all and end all, but at the same time, are we preparing for that? Right, if he does get inside, who's coming to close him down? Who's next in line? Who's coming across? Are we shuffling across? Are we putting pressure on the ball? Where's it coming from? These things you need to know as a player, black and blue. You know what I mean? You need to know these. It's just basic stuff, and you need to know it structured and day in, day out. You need to be sleeping as a defender knowing this stuff. For me, for Ireland especially, because like I said, it is your country. You want to go play. I always knew that whatever I needed to do on the pitch, that I was doing my job. I knew my strengths, I knew my weaknesses, and I tried to play to my strengths and stay away from the weaknesses. And did you have managers who gave you, just said, no, go play your own game? No, not really, no. I've never really had a manager that said, right, go out and express yourself, in the terms of, I wasn't that kind of player. I kind of knew my head was my best foot. My work rate helped me out an awful lot. That's what I was good at. I was good at working hard, winning the ball back in high areas, and me going and getting opportunities off it. That was my strengths in terms of the game. But I did have managers that said, look, don't come here. You know, make sure you're spinning behind. And they'd stop it and pull you and say, listen, you haven't done it enough.
See all that stuff Noel's saying, that for me, that's management. That's why we have managers in the game. That's why we have coaches to work and stuff and train. And that's why John's, like, you're there, like, you can turn around and say the quality of players isn't there, this, that and the other. When the quality of players is there, you manage that quality of players. And if they're better quality players, then they become a better team with better you got to manage the team. You got to kind of manage the team tactically, especially international football. You're there for such a short period. You have to work and stuff. You can't just go on your go, like, you know, pick yourselves right. It's at times it's looked a little bit like that. You have to work and stuff. I can go back to Mick McCarthy, who was probably a really successful manager. Irish, got us really far in the work. I've never played for him under Ireland, but I was in the setup when he was there. He worked on stuff religiously, like how to play, how to kind of, he wasn't the most kind of offensive manager in the world, but every player that played for him knew exactly what they were doing. And whether we can say that right now at the moment, Brian Kerr was the same as well. He was somebody that worked on stuff, because certain managers are more suited to international football than club football. I think when you got them for a short period of time, you have to work and stuff. Well, to talk on that, because that's maybe one of the questions, is that, say, going back to Burnley and Sean Dyche or Chris Hughton at Brighton, they have these players pretty much all year, whereas Martin O'Neill gets them in for shorter and shorter periods of time. This week, I think they only come in Tuesday morning, so they probably had 3 training sessions, and they might have another couple, maybe even one, before the match against Wales on Tuesday. Is there a huge difference in the type of work you're doing when you're with an international squad to when you're with a club squad, so that you can condense everything into those 4 days and getting the message across? It's not a massive difference. It's still the same process. You kind of go out there, you work on stuff in training, you'll work on set pieces, you work on, like, you kind of walk. If you don't want to name the team, you kind of put a certain. If you have roughly you know if you're going to play. There'll be 7 or 8 players usually that know if they're going to start the game. Like especially with the Ireland squad at the moment, so you'll have a rough idea where you're playing. For the other positions, you might kind of walk and stuff in training. Might put a player in, take a player out in the same position, so both players are aware of what they need to do if they're called upon. Now I spoke to a lad who was recently in the squad. I won't name who it is, and he says that they very rarely walk on that in the national team. And if anybody thinks that would be the case, then why would they be surprised? Obviously, with Martin's history,
it does seem a little bit bizarre, John.
Well, I think I can only speak from managers I've played with, from going to coaching seminars, to managing seminars, and to what we do. Certainly, you have to have a shape about your team. You have to have a strategic plan how you want to play, and from week to week in our own league, you might change things around, but ultimately, your players have to know exactly what you expect of them and where they need to be and what they need to do. And if you don't get that across, or they don't understand that, well, you're at fault then. You have to take that. So ultimately, I'm surprised, if that is the case. But if that's the case, well, then I can understand. But I would have thought from, I keep saying the record of the Irish team has been generally quite good, but obviously we've had a bad. When we didn't qualify the World Cup, we had a bad Wales game. So, looking at the Poland game, let's hope that maybe that work has been done and it's going to be done tonight, with a better performance. But certainly, if it's not being done, well, then you can't assume players are going to do it, because the level of the quality of the players nowadays aren't like the players we would have had in the past either. Do you know what I mean?
And I guess as well, though, we have to assume with Martin O'Neill, he's doing this because he thinks it's the right thing to do. He's not doing this out of laziness, and he's just going through the motions with the job. In fact, he was in here with Joe a couple of months ago for a pretty lengthy interview, and Joe raised the question about naming the team an hour beforehand, and like Kevin Long finding out an hour before Austria is about to make his international debut. And Martin O'Neill made the point, well, if I thought we would get better results by naming the team 24 hours beforehand, I would do that. But I feel that naming the team beforehand is the best way of getting the best performance out of it.
See, I think you prepare differently with that. If I know that I'm playing the next day, I prepare for that. I'm starting at 3 o'clock or whatever time the game's kicking off. I start my regiment then from through the game. If I'm a sub or whatever,
you have an order of Chinese, don't you?
It'd be slightly different, I think you're probably slightly more relaxed, right? Okay, I'm not starting tomorrow, but I get my head on that. I'm going to come on. I'm going to impact the game, and these things. Going back to the one a minute ago about knowing our stuff. I'll never forget, I was involved with Trapattoni for a couple of years. I'm very lucky to be involved with the boys, but some of our training sessions, were that basic. And I would look across and I'd see the likes of Robbie and Duffer, and they're going off their heads kind of thinking, no, we're doing this. And we do it for 20 minutes, and all it will be right, man with a defender, pass the ball to him and go double up. That was all it was. You go double up, you track back and you get double up and you win the ball off the one that has the ball. That's what it is. And it was just a simple 3 or 4 man drill where you had to go back and help your mate out. And that's all I done. And you did for 15, 20 minutes, swap over 15, 20. And the boys would be going mad. But you see how important it is to be defensively, and that was his whole ethos. As probably
that was his way of playing, though, wasn't it? It wasn't pretty to watch, but we did get results. We got the qualified for tournaments.
It's the complete opposite of this. It's what everybody knew exactly.
It's also what you want. Do you want to play lovely football and come out against a good team who's going to beat you 3 or 4, or do you want to be nasty and look ugly and win results and get to playoffs and get to competitions? Is
the problem that against Wales and Denmark we didn't do either?
It's just possibly, balance, isn't it? Yeah.
And the other thing you said there, Nathan, about managers and the lads are starting their coaching. I've been involved in the coaching management for the best part of 15 years, so I've been at a lot of different seminars in Europe, whatever. And it's intriguing when you ask different managers. Some guys like to more or less have their team on the Monday and name it and work the whole week towards the match, and others don't like to name until just before kick-off. And sometimes it comes down to a personal choice, because it's been amazing when I've been at different conferences of all different managers in different countries, and it's just amazing. Some prefer start on the Monday, some like to do it on a Thursday, 2 days before the match, and some like to do it before kick-off. It's funny, people have different styles, but ultimately at the end of the day, whatever way you do it, your team has to know what they're doing. You know what I mean? So that's the
Yeah, Michael O'Neill, I think, is one of the ones who's very keen on. They come in on a Monday morning, and he pretty much names his team, and the entire week is spent working on that shape and training.
When I was at Hearts, funny enough, Paulo Sergio, a Portuguese manager, came in. Jim Jeffries got fired early in the season. Paulo Sergio came in, and his training methods were something that I'd never seen before. Like, obviously we went from Jim Jeffries' old school 5-a-sides training, bang at a set piece of sort of, so organised. But Paulo Sergio came in and literally, like you say, Monday to Friday, he actually cancelled our days off Wednesdays. We were even in on Sundays watching videos, tactical shape. I played up front on my own, and it wasn't to score goals, it was to run chance, to create space for the three lads behind us, and that was the way we play. I didn't particularly enjoy playing. I used to be running left, right, down channels, blocking balls, like clearing balls. The fans were okay because they knew that was the way we play. Now, it wasn't pretty. The training was rubbish, 2-3 hours a day. We never played 7-a-sides. I think I forgot how to kick the ball properly because you're just running and that. But what we did, we ended up winning the Scottish Cup, which for Hearts at that time was massive. We beat Celtic, Rangers, Hibs along the way. So it's like one of them, right? I look back on that and think, it wasn't really an enjoyable time training wise, but it's a memory I have of winning the cup, which is a big moment in my career. So you kind of weigh up everything, and like John says, there's different ways of playing. As long as people are, I think it's important that the fans and everybody knows that the secret is knowing the method. This is the way we're playing, and there's a reason why we're doing it. At this moment in time, I look at the Irish setup and I do not see that. And the thing is, Martin and Roy, they're two of the biggest names in Irish sport. Their knowledge of the game will be better probably than most of ours. So that's the surprising thing for me.
What do you like to do, John, say, when you're looking ahead to the Cup final next month? Do you name your team for the Cup final on a Monday or Tuesday and let everybody settle down and get used to it, or do you bide your time and...
Yeah, well, we have all our own styles. You know, I suppose ultimately you involve over years of coaching and management, but you know, I like to have a sort of a settled team. This year for me, unfortunately, hasn't been as settled. We've had a number of injuries and different and loss of form and stuff. But generally, if you looked at my history in the last 4 or 5 years, we've always had what I call players knowing what to do, settled team, that type of way. So yeah, it's one of those ones that sometimes you might mix it up, but generally, you know, I like to give the confidence to the players, and also I like to, obviously you have players that will be disappointed that they won't play.
Give yourself time to talk to them.
And you have to talk to them, and they have to get themselves ready for it, because, you know, as a player myself, you know, if you're told 10 minutes before or an hour before the game and you're not playing, you know, you can't have players around the dressing room who are moping around the place. Everyone has to be in the same place. So yeah, it's but I do think that sort of there's different styles, and I do think that probably, you know, the old styles that people say, you know, was there 20 years ago, they're gone. You know, people have changed, and managers have changed, and you've had to change, because that's just the way the culture has gone. And tactically, you have to be a lot more clever, and you have to know things. Whereas I think before, you know, as Stephen says, you know, you hear of players talk about when they trained 20 years ago, it was 5v5s and 6v6s. That's, you know, if that's what your training session is, well, you're not going to win anything unless you have 5 Messis and
now you have it.
So that day is gone, and you have to work on your shape and your how you're going to play in that, you know.
Of course, what happens on the pitch is only half the fun with the Republic of Ireland. We've seen over the last month there've been constant news cycle of stories of issues with Declan Rice and Harry Arter. We John Giles in studio on Thursday night, and he was talking about Harry Arter's return to the squad after his fallout with Roy Keane, and what James McLean had to say about it all.
It doesn't matter what the others think. It's Harry Arter's the one that's to blame. And I believe the comments that were supposed to have been made, Nathan, now you read them as well, I mean, that nothing to do with football.
Questioning his fitness.
Well, he was questioning his character. Anyways, you were always injured or whatever, and all your so-and-so this and your so-and-so that. And so what McLean is saying, in his day, he came across coaches who, and the lads of today are a bit soft and that. But I don't think he had anybody, assistant manager, coming up to him and accusing him of being injured all the time and all the various things. It's apples and oranges. Like, McLean is a good lad, and I like him. I like his attitude playing. He said he would wear the green shirt all the time. That's his opinion. It doesn't mean he's right and Arthur's wrong. But what's come out of it, Arthur did nothing wrong as far as I could see in this particular issue with the assistant manager, except to say, look, I can't stand for that, and I'm not going to turn up for the next match. So I think McLean is getting it mixed up. He would have turned up for the next match, but he didn't. He wasn't at the end of the verbal abuse.
Sure.
He's talking about a different situation altogether. The other difference was years ago, the coach would have said, what do you think you're doing, and give him a rollicking and all that. This wasn't a football matter that Arthur was objecting to. This was a personal matter that he felt was absolutely wrong, and it was bad behaviour from the assistant manager. That's been written out of it now, and I think it's wrong. I think it's unfair on Arthur to be put in that position, and I think McLean should be a little bit more careful about what he says at times.
Yeah, generally they get through the week of the game all right, and it's only the weeks after that the stories start to emerge. Harry Arter's back. James McLean came out straight away about both Declan Rice and Harry Arter, I think, saying that there's nothing that would ever stop him from playing, but every player is different. No, what have you made of the sort of mess that has gone on behind the scenes over the past month?
Look, clearly there's an issue there, isn't there? You know, and for me, I think it's got to be resolved, and it had to be resolved one way or the other. Now, there was two ways it was going to happen. Either Harry Arter was going to stay out of it, I was going to come back, but I don't think anything was ever going to come of Ryan and Martin, to be honest. So for me, it'd probably be a conversation. Look, it wasn't personal, heat of the moment, you know, let's just leave it there, park it and go on. But will it ever be the same? You don't know. It's tough. It's because you don't know the full facts of it, and obviously you hear the things, and I think we've all heard the voice notes and whatnot, but it's not right. You know, it's football has changed. Maybe 20 years ago that was accepted. I'm not going to say it was acceptable, because it wasn't, but it was accepted, you know. And I've had managers come in and scream and shout at me like 10, 15 years ago, and I just take it on the chin and go, yeah, you're probably right. But again, I think John's saying there, it's personal, you know. He's questioning his character, he's questioning, you know, his loyalty probably to Ireland, and that's not right.
Well, I guess that's part of man management as well, and one of the more longer lasting issues for Roy Keane is how he manages people. That, like, John Walters has been thrown out time and time again as an example by Martin O'Neill of someone who would come back and did come back, but he's a very different character obviously from Harry Arter, and I guess Roy Keane's job is to recognise that you can have a row, and he's had his rows clearly with John Walters down through the years, but that Walters in a way can take it and will come back, and nothing will stop him wearing the Ireland jersey. Where Harry Arter is a very different personality. He's had a lot of different things go on in his life over the last few years. That you need to be able to pick and choose your battles. Like, that's a key part of management.
Oh, that's what it's all about, you know, because every player is different, and everyone is, you know, you're dealing with different age profiles. You're different with huge egos, and plus the fact all these players nowadays are effectively millionaires. So, you know, so from that point of view, you know, they don't. It's a different culture, and I think, you know, we've all been on the training ground when there's been a scrap and a burst up, and we shake hands and everyone moves on to the following day, and that's part and parcel. The difference nowadays is that I suppose some players are much more sensitive than other players, and, you know, in any management team, you have to recognise that, and some fellas, you know, as Noel said in his day, he was probably used to a fella coming in and give him a bit of abuse, and that got him going. Whereas another fella needs a pat in the back, and that's just the way it is. And, you know, as a management team, no matter who you're looking after, you have to recognise who you have, what's their strengths and weaknesses. And like the only thing on that whole incident, like, I suppose you also have within the squad, you have the James McLean, who we all know 100% what he's about, where he's from, and, you know, he wouldn't have, you know, he can't accept certain things, but that's just the way it is. You know, the Rice thing is different because agents are now huge. It's all about the agents, whereas that was non-existent before. And obviously with Declan Rice, you know, someone's got into his ear saying, you know, if you hold tough and get playing for England, you're going to be worth a lot more money. So it's a different concept. I suppose it's hard for anyone here who's Irish, and we want our players to play with Ireland, that someone would doubt, you know, not to play with us, you know. But ultimately, at the end of the day, and that's why we probably find it, or sort of, you know, a lot of people are finding it difficult, the fact that he's played with us and now he's waiting to decide. You know, I suppose it's not like a club team.
That's the annoying thing, I think, when you've already kind of been in there with the squad, and then it's like, I'm not too sure if I like this now. And again, it probably has nothing to do with it, but is he watching what's going on behind the scenes? So like you mentioned the Arter incident, the one thinking, do you know what, this could be me next year. Do you know, this could be me.
And he's hearing about an England squad that at the moment seems like a particularly happy camp, that's for the first time in decades.
Well, again, though, I still think, like, for me, like, obviously James McLean's come out and said, we say everybody, but probably know he'd say that anyway before he mentions that publicly.
But it's actually, in a way, even though Roy Keane is obviously the lightning rod and receives all the criticism and receives all the attention, and Martin O'Neill was very strong in his defence of Roy Keane and to take responsibility as manager that everything that happens here is under my watch, that in a way maybe he's more frustrated with James McLean, because players you just want to keep quiet. Like Roy, at least he understands, he'll back him every step of the way, but McLean has to be in the dressing room, he has to be on the pitch alongside Harry Arter.
Teammate, isn't it? Like,
at the same time I think Martin's got to back Roy, because Martin's brought Roy in, or they came as a pair, or whatever way it was done. Like, so for me, like, look, this isn't the first time in his career that Roy's had an altercation with somebody. It probably won't be the last, but like you say, he's gone from being a player now where he could pick his battles, and we know that Roy Keane would never back down from a fight or any sort on a pitch, but he's in a different role now. You know, he's a role model. People look up to Roy Keane, and if one of your idols is coming, I'm not saying that he's Harry Arter is idol, but you know, if he one of my idols, that if one of my idols was coming to me,
didn't he?
Did he? Well, he did. Well, so if one of my idols was coming, you'd probably be heartbroken. You know, you would take it personal, and you would sulk about it. I'm not saying Harry yourself, but I would.
You say Martin's come out and obviously stood up for Roy as well. Like, I wonder if behind the scenes Martin's thinking, what has he gone done now? I've got this mess to clean up. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't like, he's got enough to deal with people kind of questioning in what way he's playing this football wise, and then he's obviously got to deal with the other stuff that really, obviously I know a lot goes on in management away from football, but this shouldn't really, we shouldn't be really talking about.
Or we spent the entire week after losing 4-1 away at Wales in Cardiff talking about Roy Keane rather than talking about the performance.
It's kind of, you're not too sure whether it was all planned, was it? We don't know. Is it ever
acceptable though for an assistant manager to cause a situation where a player refuses to turn up for a camp?
It's totally different though. Even when
Roy's not like any assistant manager.
No, you haven't. And when he came in first, you know, every paper, every tabloid, it was always Roy and Martin. It's Roy and Martin are in with Ireland. It's Martin and Roy. You know, Martin is the boss.
It's like when you watch the UK. I'm living in the UK now. You watch the television in the UK. They'll be talking about international football, and they'll say they're speaking about England. They talk about Gareth Southgate and the boys. They talk about other national like they'll say such and such. When they talk about Ireland, they go Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane, so Ireland, and it's like it's the pair of them all. And so, does Martin enjoy that, or does he dislike it? I don't know. Like, it's one of them. It's just a strange situation to have two such big characters kind of in there in their role. And the thing, going back to the incident with Arter, for me, we mentioned about obviously managers, assistant manager coming in and having a go at you at half time. That's acceptable, I think. But I think this scenario is a little bit different, where he's kind of come back and he's gone looking for him, and he's kind of publicly, if what we hear is true, he's publicly kind of abused him basically. Do you know what I mean? Is that acceptable? Do you know what I mean? That's a different scenario again, and I think we'll find out a little bit more tonight whether we'll see Harry Arter involved in the game, whether that has kind of been settled.
The real losers in this are the media, who no longer get a Roy press conference every international break because he's been held back, it seems, at this point. We've got a lot of texts into 53106. I'll just throw some of them to the lads. Cormac O'Malley on Twitter. Any thoughts from the lads on the link with the under-21 style of play through to the senior team and where the under-21s are right now? So the under-21s were beaten by Israel. They're now out of the running. I've ended up covering a lot of the under-21 games, and Noel King's been there a while. Seems like he took a different tack this time around, whereby generally under-21 squads could have huge changes from squad to squad. He decided, I'm going to try and stick with the same 18, 20 players, which meant we've ended up with players in the squad who were playing in non-league football, some of them who did in the clubs for a time, and also very few League of Ireland players in there, even guys who've emerged over the last 18 months not really getting a chance. What's your thoughts as a club manager as to the opportunities that young Irish players are getting for the under-21 squad?
Well, I don't think there's any link between the 21s and the senior squad anyway. But I think the most frustrating thing from a League of Ireland manager's point of view is the number of players, under-21 players, that are playing in our country in profession at the top level, and that aren't being called in, and that when you look at the spread of the under-21 team, a lot of them are non-league, a lot of them are playing academy football. Not many are in first team football. So I think that's what's probably disappointing, that at least I think we feel that there should be at least 6 or 7 more players from our league are playing men's football every week, and I think that's what's disappointing. You know, I know we had a young lad, Sean McLaughlin, who got called in to the last match, the Germany match, and that was his first time getting called in, and he's done very well. But previous to that, we had Shawnee Maguire and we had Kevin O'Connor, and Shawnee struggled to get any start, you know, which was disappointing despite the fact that he'd been scoring regularly here. So You'll be interested to see what Noel has to say about it, but certainly I do think that maybe, if you have an English team after your name, it seems to be that in 21s at the moment, it's quicker to get in, and I don't think that's a good place for us to be in.
No, and it really makes no sense right now with the way that Irish football has gone and our relationship with the English game, where it's not like, okay, there's some academy players, the goalkeepers with Manchester United, there's a couple of young guys who are with the Liverpool under-23s in and around the squad. But it's harder and harder. It's not as though these guys are under-21 at Premier League teams by and large, that the guys who are staying at home surely are every bit as good as somebody who's playing for a League 2 team. Are struggling to get in a League 2
personally, I think a lot of them are better because they're playing week in, week out. And when I look at guys playing in non-league, some of them aren't even in non-league teams. Some of them are playing under 21 football, under 23 football in. So there isn't a lot of that starting team that are playing regularly. So of course the guys that are here playing week in, week out are in a better position. But look at it at the same time, Noel has to come out and talk himself, and he has to talk.
We must get him on to talk about it
and see what it is. But certainly, it doesn't look good for our league here that there are a lot of players that are under 21 playing week in, week out that aren't being called in.
What's your relationship with someone like Noel King as a manager? Are you ringing him up every month saying, "Listen, when Seanie Maguire's at the club, this guy's flying. You need to get him in. We need him to be a part of it"?
Yeah, well, I would speak to Noel regularly. I would want to promote my players. I think it's very good for our club, it's very good for our league. And, so I would be constantly, speaking to Noel on that. At the end of the day, Noel's brief is that his job is recruiting players, second and third generation across Europe to try and get them to play with Ireland. Hence the reason where Jack Grealish would have come from, possibly Declan Rice, and a lot of the players, obviously, he's playing with the 21s are people that he would have recruited. But it's
trying to keep in the system, which is, I guess, why we need to talk to him and see where.
Yeah,
but it's funny though. It's like you say, you've got just some lads playing the League One that you think can play. Would it not be better if they're there to get them into the international setup, get them aware what international football's all about? So if they do go on and they get called into the national team, they know what it's about. So it's not as big a shock. I remember when I was in the 21s, going back obviously a good while back, the likes of Darryl Murphy, Kevin Doyle, who were playing League of Ireland football. They were like part of the fulcrum of the under 21 squad, and they made us better. Like, and obviously the game's changed. We're trying to get these players to clear, and it's to me it's so annoying.
Well, I suppose, Nathan, I have been on record as saying that I do feel there's a blind eye being turned, and while we all know that the level across Premier Championship is a very high level, our own league has proven that there is top teams here that have done exceptionally well. What I have said is that we did at one stage, I'm not sure were you there, Stephen, going back, I remember when Stephen Gagan and guys were there, Glenn Crowe originally, we had a situation where 4 players used to be called in to train with the first team, and was seen as just a token gesture. But for me, it was giving the guys exposure, and I think that's something that we could do. Certainly, there's no excuses for at under 21 level that in this league here that out of 20 players that we can't have at least 8 to 10 players from our own league. That's my opinion on that.
People are always wary of quotas, but at the same time, there's such a knock-on effect from them seeing and training with elite players. When they come back to the club, they're learning new things, they can educate the players around them. It just seems like it'd be such a real benefit. We do have to wrap up because we're going to be heading to the rugby very shortly. I want to get your thoughts, like the story in the paper today that Martin O'Neill is 2 matches to save his job. If they were to lose these 2 games, it's probably hard to see how he does survive. What's your sense of the next 4 days and what Martin O'Neill needs to make sure he's still there heading into the new year?
Well, I'm not too sure whether his job is kind of in jeopardy, if I'm honest. Like, nobody's come out and said there's pressure on him. Like, so I'm sure I'm hoping for a better performance, a more organised performance, but I'm not too sure whether unless the only way I think that his job could be on the line if like supporters start making noises, if these poor performance continues. Like you mentioned, the attendance, where people start kind of not turning up to games.
There's
and
25,000 there on Tuesday night, they're losing their boot off.
You know
the
what I
pitch.
mean? It's one of them you have to kind of, even I know they've got a good relationship there with John Delaney, the FAI, and the guys up there. But again, if people stop having interest in the international team, then it may have to be looked at again. But let's hope we don't get to that situation.
John, I know managers never want to call out other managers and talk about them potentially losing their jobs and things like that, but he's clearly under pressure. They need a win from these two.
Managers are always under pressure if results go against you. But I would say that, we qualified for the Euros in his first spell. We were a game away from the World Cup, which we all know with 11 months ago, which is a bad night for us. We didn't do it. This is the start of a new campaign, and obviously we started the first game bad. I would hope that the next 2 games will be very positive results, but at the same time, everyone knows in football that if results don't go with you, you know, you're not going to survive. And but at the same time, for Martin and his experience of what he's done, you know, I'm sure they've worked exceptionally hard. I'm looking forward to the game tonight, and I'm hoping that Martin can get positive results.
No.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. Results-based business, that's what it is, you know, and I'm hoping for a better performance, more like the Poland one that we can build on. But if you do see a couple of 3-4s, you can't say that at a certain age is going to stay in a job. So for me, it's results-based. You know, a good performance, is it enough? If we need points on the board, that's the end of it. That's the story. You know, we need points on the board. So for me, we'll wait and see.
All right, lads, great stuff. John, best of luck in the cup final. You all set? What's the inside? What's the team news? We have a few texts from Cork supporters wondering, are you looking ahead to next season already?
He's working on the team shape after this, isn't he?
The unfortunate thing is any manager in our league knows with the high turnover of players, because they're being whipped across and they're being taken and players move on in short contracts. It's always one of those ones where you're always building your team every 18 months, and that's just the way it is over here. But look, we love it, we enjoy it, we're passionate about the league. You know, it's about perception, and that's what I'm saying about, you know, Irish players going in. Wouldn't it be great for them training with Irish teams, because, you know, it gives the perception that at the moment sometimes people look down on our league, and we have tremendous players in our league.
Yeah, it's great the way the cup final comes at the end of the season like this as well. It means that even though the disappointment of not winning the league, you win the cup final, you can look back in the entire year in a very different way. Yes,
and it's good, I suppose, at the end of the day, Nathan, from our point of view. You know, we were in 5 cup finals in 25 years. And now we've been 4 in a row, which is incredible for our club. And we're playing Dundalk, who's the other club that have reached the heights, and they've been phenomenal as well. So, you know, it's just ironic that the same 2 teams are there for the 4 years in a row. So, look, at the challenge is up to us. They're going to be the favourites. We're the underdogs, but we've won it for the last 2 years. So we look forward to that.
All right, good stuff. No doubt we'll be talking to you between now and the beginning of November. John Caulfield, Stephen Elliott, Noel Hunt, thanks a lot. We have full live commentary coming up with the other Hunt. Unless you want to step in, should we get rid of Stephen for the commentary?
I'll keep him in there.
We'll keep him in there. He's travelled all the way over. So that's 7:45 kickoff. We're going to be live from the Aviva Stadium. But between now and then, it is all rugby. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're heading to the sports ground to build up to Connacht against Bordeaux. We're switching studio. That's where we're...